Hello and welcome to this week's episode of QTV. Wow, have we got a fantastic program coming up for you this evening.
We'll be finding out the goings-on behind the scenes in the Dykes on Bikes group.
We'll bring you leather, rubber and all things kink from the Northside Bizarre event.
Catherine Barrett and Toni Paynter talk about a new resource for older trans people and their families.
And our Moments in Time series remembers the Rainbow Sash movement that challenged the Catholic Church, urging it to welcome its Q+ congregation.
I've known about Dykes on Bikes for quite a few years, but it took me a while to build up the courage to join the club. They call these the baby Harleys, so it's only a 500cc. It's such an awesome and amazing feeling.
What I do, I lead a very busy lifestyle, and to get on the bike, you've actually got to just concentrate on riding. So it just enables you to have that space where you're not really thinking about anything else.
4 wheels might move the body, but 2 wheels moves the soul.
It was a great day. So we held up these placards, all of us. It was awesome.
Of course, Jo, our president, she's always a leader. We have a secondary rider. It was usually a corner marker, and she'll stop at any corner we have to turn at, wait for all the riders to pass her, and then she'll come around. The next thing you feel this whoosh.
And like what you were saying just then about putting our learner riders in the middle of the bunch, so you know they're not left behind or anything like that. We stick together and we protect them, in the front and the back, and just make sure that they're feeling, part of the group. And every level of rider, whether you're a learner or you've been riding for 20, 30, some people 40 more years in our club, so we all just stick together.
I've been riding my motorcycle for 35 years, and I've tried to be in every parade I can be, because I'm proud to be a lesbian and proud to ride a motorcycle.
I had a couple of opportunities to ride further back in the group, and to be honest with you, I think I prefer that because I get to see all the people riding in front of me, and to see us all in our vests and our patches, and it's like there's a real honour in that, and to be able to witness everyone riding together, and you can just feel that everyone's having a great time when you see them going up the hill. It's just spectacular.
Yeah.
See all these bikes, and just to know that you're a part of that, it's really cool, isn't
And
it?
not to mention the roar of the engines.
As soon as those bikes start, they know it's happening. That's the signal. When we go to Mardi Gras, there's riders from all over the world that come that want to be a part of that, And then because Melbourne and Sydney are quite close in time, they will come and perhaps do both, So we get to meet many riders from all over the world. We just belong to this one family, and that's what the sisterhood is worldwide with Dykes on Bikes.
I was heading off to Northside Bizarre function where Dykes on Bikes had a stall, and I got halfway up the highway and then because the push rod is broken, it's not separating. So I can get it into first gear and neutral, but I can't find me second, third and fourth gear. And I use all hand tools. I don't. There's one part where I have to fire up me this thing, the air compressor. But I like to work. I'm old school. I like to work with hand tools. I was lucky enough. My dad made a motorcycle carrier on the back of the Mark II Zephyr. And he'd drive me to a paddock somewhere and I'd just go round and round and round and round because Mum got sick of me driving around the backyard and cutting up all the nice lawn. 30 years later, I go, I'd really like to join Dykes on Bikes because it's always a bit mysterious and, you know, goddesses, these women that ride motorbikes. It was just awe-inspiring for me. I thought, I'll never be able to join. I won't ever be good enough to join them. And I did, and then I remember the press saying, TJ, you've got to get legal, you know, you've got to get legal. So I went to Calder Raceway and got me licence. Now I'm legally riding with the club and I'm very, very proud. Always start with a fibre ring and then you end with a fibre ring.
Growing up, I was tomboy. I was the first girl in Geelong to play footy, like Little League. You know, riding bikes. I was the biggest tomboy in the world. So I was tomboy. And then the next step, I guess, was lesbian. But there was none of all these other labels. So that was the only thing you could identify with. But now I look back, there's probably other labels I could have identified with way more back then. Do you know what I mean? So it's really exciting to watch the evolution of that, and it's just so many variants, and it's really cool, I think. I love it. Melbourne chapter prides itself on being inclusive, and over the years we've had quite a few trans women as members. If they identify as a woman and a dyke or a lesbian, or, you know, a woman who loves women. Yeah. That's all we need. We're an official chapter of the San Francisco Dykes on Bikes.
And these are the year ones. Every year you've been a member. And on the other side I can put whatever I like.
We've got a patch that we wear on our backs which is exactly the same as San Francisco, which they formed in the 70s. You know, the San Francisco Dykes on Bikes chapter, and in the 70s and the 80s, right through to the Sydney chapter in the 80s and 90s, and actually the protection that they provided for the community, right through the AIDS and the HIV epidemic, and they actually protected a lot of these people. They looked after them. They worked in the hospitals. They were nurses, you know.
Vigilantes. Protecting people on the street, gay bashings and stuff like that.
They escorted many of the boys home from nightclubs to get them home safely. A lot of the times we talk about the lesbian bars and the lack of them these days, and they're all closed down and stuff like this, and where do you go, where do you hang out? And so, well, we don't actually need a venue. We just need to be together. So we've developed a series of visibility rides. So we've gone to places like Warrnambool, Bendigo, Ballarat, Warragul, Shepparton, and we invite everyone in the community to come and join us in a park. Bring all your rainbows and be whoever you want to be, because we're going to be there and we're going to create your safe space.
More riding, more riding. More riding, let's get out there.
If you've got a bike and you want to be a part of Pride March, we don't care what bike you ride, we don't care about what gender you identify or your sexuality. Come and support us and let's just get loud and proud together. It's the one day of the year where we should be together and celebrate who we are together. So for many years now, we've opened that up to everyone to come and support us, and I think our community needs more of that.
We tried to get a helmet exemption for this year, but at the last minute the police said no, you've got to ride with helmets on.
And why should we not be visible and out loud and proud without our helmets? We never get out of first gear anyway, so it's not dangerous or anything. And, you know, in Mardi Gras, Sydney, they ride without helmets. Chill Out. There's quite a few events in our LGBTIQ plus community that motorcyclists can ride without helmets. And we want to be visible, you know, why not? Out loud and proud.
Coming up next, we've got an exciting look at leather, rubber and kink at the Northside Bizarre.
$5, 3 shots $10. Follow my Austrian accent and come and make a beer wet.
Relax. Take a breath.
I am the ball.
Oh! We are here for Northside Bizarre 2019, which is a huge community fundraiser for Draw 94.9 and the David Williams Fund, which is run by Thorn Harbour Health. The laird is open with a leather and treasure area of used goods and things. There's a laird stage happening with some anything from burlesque to BDSM to drag. The history of it starts with a conversation between myself and Tex McKenzie, who some people may have heard of. Tex and I were sitting here in the backyard, actually, metres from where we are, trying to think of a new way to do a fundraiser, because the fundraisers of the 90s and the noughties had mostly gone by the wayside, except for mooning, which still goes, but slave auction and that sort of thing had gone by the wayside. So we thought, let's just do a used leather thing. And it started off as that, and let's get Joy to do a barbecue. It started off in the Laird Hotel only, and within 3 years it grew so big we had to take over the street and the hall.
Alright, well I'm going to give you a marble. Let's bring it down and see another layer. Sorry? Yeah, are you doing another layer down? Yeah. I'll separate parts.
There's market stalls in the street. We've blocked off Henry Street, and we've also taken over the hall across the road, the Masonic Hall, which has a great auction house. It has the Master Baker, which is all the queer sports teams baking and showing off their goods. My mother is one of the judges as well. And then in the street, we've got a bar out there as well, and we've got the Dykes on bikes, awesomely looking after my dog, but also handing out wristbands and doing ID and cloak. It's a real community effort.
Have you got music? Okay.
I'll do big
Something wrong with my, something wrong with my
Yeah, so totally.
Cool.
The highest bidder for each lot shall be the purchaser at the fall of the hammer. The auctioneer has the discretion to take or refuse a bid from anyone. In the case of a dispute, the auctioneer may elect to put the item up for sale again. The auctioneer's decision will be final. No warranty is given or implied with any lot. All lots become the responsibility of the purchaser immediately upon the fall of the hammer. All goods must be paid for and removed by 7 p.m. on the day tonight after the auction. Now we've got Hares and Hyenas, books and t-shirt pack. We've got Leatherman Gay Erotica. We've got more bear cooking. I'm not sure if that's for cooking bears or cooking for bears. It's going twice at $40. Are you ready?
I'm so ready. Go for it. Born ready.
Sold!
Coming up next is Catherine Barrett and Toni Paynter, who spoke on Joy 94.9's Saturday magazine. Then we'll remember the Rainbow Sash movement.
Fantastic new resource that I've been flicking through this morning called Gender Genograms, and it's actually a resource that's been developed for families of older trans and gender diverse people. So just to kick off the conversation, what prompted you to actually put this together? Where did the idea come from?
It came out of family relationship counselling. It's a technique that they use there. But we thought it would be useful in families where one member of the family, particularly an older person like the father or the grandfather, is transitioning to female. And it would help sort of start conversations within the family about what was being involved, what was going on with the transitioning person.
Across a number of research projects, there are stories emerging increasingly of older people transitioning gender or living out their diversity late in life. So this is perhaps people who have maybe at some level known that they're gender diverse all their lives but have not been in a world that has given them any permission and in fact it wasn't safe to transition or express gender diversity, and so people now are expressing their gender diversity or living out their gender diversity in later life. And as Toni said, what the research is showing that increasingly older, because there are established relationships, you know, like you for example, in a marriage for 40 years and you transition gender, and so we're finding stories of people having their gender identity restricted by family members. So while you can be female but not outside the front door or not at this family function or not in front of the grandchildren.
Acceptance of trans people still has a long, long way to go. To a certain extent, as a gay or a lesbian person, you can hide your sexuality. Yeah. As a trans person, particularly once you've decided to come out full-time, there's no hiding the fact that you're different and you've changed. And change is something that people are rather uncomfortable with until they get to know the person or the person in the new gender expression. It takes a while.
So, Toni, what's been your personal experience? Are you able to talk about some of that with us?
I transitioned about 7 years ago, medically. My sister has refused to talk to me ever since I came out. My 3 children are accepting. One very, very much so. The girl very much so. One of the boys, accepts it. I took him to the Globe Awards last month or this month, and he had a very big education about the queer community at that function. The third one, well, we have other issues that are unrelated to gender. But yeah, it's been pretty good as far as I've been concerned. My brother accepts me. I am definitely being myself, which is completely different to the way my kids saw me through the first 40, 50 years.
Is there an age group and even a sexuality group that find this the most challenging? That when someone later in life transitions?
I think across the board, and I think particularly within families. And so I think the experiences for younger trans and gender diverse people are quite different. Not easier, just different.
By the 1990s, gay people were making remarkable progress in our struggle for equality. And this, of course, created a great deal of concern amongst conservatives. Nowhere more so, perhaps, than in the Catholic Church. Catholic Church had defined homosexuality as a disorder of one sort or another for a very long time. By the late 1990s, Catholic women and men, gay people and their friends, were starting to think that it was time to take their message to the Catholic Church to try to effect what they called a conversion of the heart. For several months in the late 1990s, a large number of people were meeting in Melbourne to discuss the issues, to talk about how they might best do this. They wrote to the Pope, they wrote to the Archbishop, and they got in touch with the media. And on Pentecost Sunday, in late 1998, they gathered at St Patrick's Cathedral here behind us in order to make witness of their sexuality and to speak to the church authorities and to the congregation. This was not intended as a confrontation. People stood up, they got in line for communion as per usual, but they were wearing rainbow sashes, and that was the name that they gave to their movement. When they were refused communion, they returned to their pews, as was usual, but remained standing rather than kneeling, and that was unusual. Drew attention to the fact that they were part of the community, even though they weren't being allowed to participate fully. All of those who were wearing the rainbow sash, or even just little rainbow flags, were refused communion. Men and women, gay and straight and bi, trans people, their family, their friends, everybody. The then Archbishop, the man who refused them communion, one George Pell, spoke angrily from the pulpit and was applauded by much of the crowd that had gathered. He went on for weeks and weeks defending his position, and in a very short time he'd been supported by every single Archbishop in Australia in refusing communion to those who were wearing a rainbow sash. The Rainbow Sash movement went on for quite a while, not just in these big public events, but working in local congregations and writing and thinking and trying to think about the ways in which they related to the church and they wanted it to relate to them. After a while, they started talking about themselves as a celebratory group, of talking about the way in which they wanted the church to change, but without necessarily confronting it. They talked about the dignity of the call that we have received, the power of the courage we share, and the grace of the witness and challenge we generously offer to the church. The group no longer exists, but its ripple effects continue still today.
Well, the relationship between the church and the queer community has always been a challenge. It was wonderful to see the Rainbow Sash movement really standing up for what they believe in.
Absolutely.
But that's it from QTV tonight. Thank you from myself and Tess. We'll be back with some more QTV next week. Take care.
Bye for now.